Below Sydney is a vast underground labyrinth of tunnels and passageways, some of which are attributed to convict labour. Keep in mind, though, that the last shipload of convicts to arrive in Australia was in January of 1868, meaning that these tunnels were built well over 150 years ago, in a time of no power tools or machinery, and were dug out and then lined meticulously using the unskilled labour of malnourished men. As we can see in this image, this is how they were doing it in 1922. So can you imagine how they were doing it in the early to mid 1800s? Makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, it's such an engineering feat to build tunnels today using massive and highly advanced technology that they actually make documentaries about it for television. So how in the world were they doing it back then? Some of these tunnels, though, don't come with an explanation. They are cloaked in mystery, and there is speculation on why they were built in the first place. But no one ever seems to ask who built them. Take the numerous tunnels that are said to be large enough to drive a van through under the main shopping precinct of the Sydney CBD. Former employees of David Jones and Grace Brothers department stores, most who have now sadly passed, have told of tunnels used by delivery vehicles to transfer goods. Legend has it that there are other undocumented tunnels accessed by steel doors in the basement of the Queen Victoria Building and Town Hall Station. It is also said that Pitt Street has a series of tunnels under it, built over 130 years ago, so in the late 1890s. They apparently stretch from Circular Quay to Newtown, and we are told these were used for storing government telephone cables. But again, no mention of who built these extensive tunnel systems. But we have heard that there is also a locked vault with a steel door in one of these tunnels that no one is allowed through and no one knows what's in there. St James Station is home to a subterranean network of abandoned tunnels that start under the station and stretch for kilometres under the city. Said to have been built in 1926 by New South Wales government architect George McRae, who also completed Sydney Town Hall, the Queen Victoria Building and Taronga Zoo lower entrance. St James is said to be the first underground station in Australia. To the north and south of the public area, other tunnels and platforms were built for a proposed underground metro that was put on hold as a result of the Great Depression, and then abandoned in favour of today's electric railway and underground city rail loop. Why would you go through all the trouble of digging out mammoth tunnel systems and then not even use them? Could they have already been there, perhaps? There are two single-line tunnels, each a kilometre in length, that lie beneath Hyde Park, north of St James, and a double-track tunnel sits under Macquarie Street and ends at the Botanic Gardens. Although never used for trains, these supposed redundant tunnels were said to be used for a variety of other purposes, ranging from food production to military defence and even movie sets. During World War II, General MacArthur is believed to have had his Australian headquarters and operations room at St James Station in the northbound siding tunnel. This tunnel ends under the State Library, with its entrance accessed by wooden steps that were located opposite the library. Tunnels to the north of St James Station were converted into RAAF bunkers, while the disused southern tunnels became public air raid shelters. These had capacity and bedding for 20,000 people and were accessed from Hyde Park using a set of wooden stairs that descended 4 stories below ground. 2 stories below the air raid shelter was a large map and Morse code room for shipping and aviation coordination. That's at least 6 stories underground, and that's only the ones we've been told of. It makes one wonder how many more stories may be down there. Occasionally, Sydney Trains allows a few lucky people to access the underground world of St James Station, and via a corridor of knee-deep water, they enter into a huge flooded chamber with a domed roof. One of the tunnels is home to a pyramid-shaped bell of faceted metal that they say was once used by the ABC to simulate the sound of Big Ben. Why, you ask? Us too. And why is it still there today? Looking nothing at all like a bell, I might add. St James also has a huge underground lake. They say it is eerily silent and pitch black. 1 kilometre long, 7 metres wide, and up to 6 metres deep. And the home to a family of albino eels. Creepy, right? And what about Tank Stream, Sydney's first water supply? It was a brook which flowed from near Hyde Park alongside Pitt Street and into Sydney Cove. But the story goes that the town quickly outgrew the creek, which became polluted. The land around it was sold and developed, and what was once the lifeline of Sydney became an underground drain. The system of tunnels through which Tank Stream flowed into Sydney Cove still exists today. A brick section of the tunnel between Angel Street and Australia Square is over 120 years old. But could it be even older? We're not sure how these convicts knew how to do this kind of civil work, but this would have been a massive project in a time when power tools and heavy machinery didn't exist. They would have had to regularly divert the creek to line the length of the creek bed with stone all the way to Sydney Cove, which was approximately 1.2 kilometres away. And then they had to build the incredible dome over the top. Look at that immaculate stonework. Those convicts were so clever. It is said that there are underground tunnels, bunkers and passageways all over Sydney, or all under Sydney, I should say, from Parramatta and Bankstown to many around and under Sydney Harbour and the Rocks area. Tunnels seemed to be as prevalent as the incredible architecture that was built above them. That's right, there may be a correlation between many of these tunnels and some of Sydney's grandest old world infrastructure. Town Hall Station, Queen Victoria Building, the State Library, the Chief Secretary Building, which we mentioned in our mudflood episode. And it's also interesting to take note of all the big old world buildings that surround Hyde Park, with its plethora of underground tunnels originating from St James Station. They say that Sydney went up without much forethought or planning, but when we look at the placement of these buildings around Hyde Park and the tunnels that we now know run underneath it, it makes us wonder and leaves us again questioning the official historical narrative of Sydney.